microphone number 1.
Thank you, Chairman. We have a question from Rita Mazalevskis.
Okay, firstly I'd like to say when I got my annual report in the mail I did not get this. And the gentleman earlier in the AGM said he never got his, that called in on the phone and requested it twice and never got his. So I'm wondering how many other shareholders haven't received it, because on page 13 it says, why have you received this explanatory memorandum, which I refer to as EM, and it says that it explains and provides detailed information about ANZ's proposed restructure, and it is intended to help you decide on how to vote on the scheme, which is one of the steps required to implement the proposed restructure. So I'm thinking there's going to be a lot of shareholders know nothing about this, didn't receive the document, can't read between the lines, are not sophisticated investors, wouldn't have picked it up off of the notice of meeting. And on page 21, it says what happens to the elections that ANZ shareholders have given about their shareholdings. By the way, I read this through the AGM, so I couldn't concentrate on the AGM. So that wasn't very good. So it does say that unless prohibited by law or revoked by you, all your information will be transferred to Anz Noc, which will include TFNs, ABNs, all information. So if a shareholder hasn't received this, how will they know that they can authorise this or revoke that they don't want their information exposed?
Thanks, Rita. Look, happy to follow up on your case individually. I don't want to get into dealing with specific cases, but we have investigated an earlier one where the records show that several copies were dispatched. So we'll need to get to the bottom of what happened with that. The scheme booklet was not automatically sent out, but the notice of meeting, there was 250,000 almost of those sent out, and there's 8 pages in the notice of meeting that refer to this. I should have welcomed Ken Adams to the stage earlier on. Ken is our General Counsel at ANZ. And Ken, is there anything you wanted to add in response to Rita's question about shareholder understanding?
Yes, thanks for the question. Look, a small number of shareholders chose to receive by hard copy, a little over 2%. For everyone else, that they were sent either through email if they made no election. So if they elected electronic, they received it. If they made no election, they received a hard copy with the notice of meeting, which is what the chairman was referring to.
Yeah, well, there's a couple of us in this room that received things hard copy and we didn't get it. But I'll move on. Just a couple of notes, if I can just raise, just from my speed reading for 2 minutes. It says in here that there will be no, what have I got here? There won't be any AFSL or ACL licences, is that right? They could be applied for after the restructure, is that correct?
That's correct.
Sorry, the microphone's not on, sorry.
No, that's correct.
So does that mean you will be applying for them and they will have them, or they won't?
From the day one commencement, there will be no AFSL, but we may choose to apply for an AFSL at a later time.
So why wouldn't they have them why wouldn't you choose at the beginning? Because
from day one, the non-operating holding company will not conduct any business that requires an AFSL.
Okay, all right. And then the other thing I noted was the company, where are we? ANZ Service Co. It says that this will hold certain property interests. Is this a trust? Or will it be structured as a trust?
I can't answer your question. What the main property interests that it holds are the headquarters at 833 Collins Street.
Okay, I was going to ask what property interests you were...
That's the main one, really.
Yeah, okay. And what I was going to highlight in not sending this out, obviously people couldn't read the independent experts report from Grant Samuel and Associates. Sorry, I just want to see if there was anything else, because I don't want to really come up again because I haven't had the chance to read it properly. So are there going to be assets from ANZ that are held within this new structure somehow with some sort of transactions, whether it's securitisation, whatever?
Look, the scheme booklet identifies the assets which will be held and where they will be held, but to give you a sense, 99% of current assets will be held within the existing ANZ BGL structure. There's a very small number of interests, and the Worldline joint venture is an example, that will be held in the non-bank group. But to give you some comfort, all will be held by the ANZ group. Just the top company now will be ANZ Group Holdings Limited.
Okay, so this new structure, I'm assuming, will have its own new ABN, yeah?
Yes.
Okay, so through a securitisation process, if there is an issue, if there is a complaint or something, how does that get managed between the old ANZ group and the new group?
Okay, so you're talking
The
about
crossover.
securitisation of mortgages?
Well, no,
you-
I'm just thinking, I'm thinking if there's a complaint process, how do you manage that between the two entities when you've got one that's not regulated and one that is regulated?
So the banking entity will respond to banking-related complaints as it does today. I think, as Ken described, the assets that will be in the non-bank group will typically be businesses that help us in the bank, but they are not core banking activities.
Okay.
So Worldline's a good example.
Yeah, sorry, I haven't had time to, I
Okay.
know you're shaking your head, Shane, but I haven't had time to read this, so it's just what's popped into my head. Because I'm thinking if there's a complaint of some sort, who does that get lodged to? How is that crossover going to be managed? Are there assets in the new entity, but the customer's payment commitments comes from the old entity? So how does that structure?
Can I answer that? It's a fair question. I'm not shaking my head at that. Look, that already exists today. We have assets in the bank that we already own Cash Rewards, for example.
Yeah.
We already have the JV of Worldline. So those situations, we are ultimately responsible for any customer activity that comes into the ANZ group. We're accountable for, and we'll put in place exactly the same sort of complaint and all those sorts of avenues. By the way, we shouldn't think of this as unregulated. It's not unregulated, it's just regulated differently. It's not regulated as a bank, but it's still regulated, and we still have obligations, particularly if those activities are touching customers, providing a customer service. So, we take all those things very seriously, and none of that will change.
Okay. Well, like I said, I haven't had a chance to read it, so that's it for now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your questions, Rita.